Yeah, accepted. This work is part of the Interreg Med-TUNAP project about strategic and collaborative approach to the management of marine protected areas in the Mediterranean. The project aims to improve the protection of biodiversity by experimenting and capitalizing on a multi-actor and multi-level management tool based on the experience of river and wetland contracts that were already previously tested during another Interreg Med, which was called WetNet project. So in particular, this workshop is part of the capitalization phase of the TUNAP project and aims at sharing experience and ideas on MPA multi-level and multi-stakeholder governance tactics to improve biodiversity protection through the experience of TUNAP project and other similar initiatives. The event is open to all professionals in the sector involved in coastal management and governance, MPAs governance, and biodiversity protection. The objective, the intent of this day of the workshop is to provide a moment for exchanging knowledge and discuss challenges and solutions of co-management and integrated governance of marine and coastal areas, thanks to the participation of the main organization working in the Mediterranean region. A particular attention will be dedicated to the environmental contract, as you know, and its opportunities and challenges for its implementation. Before starting, I briefly recall the agenda of the day or the structure of the day. I don't know if my colleague Julia would like to share the screen to show the agenda again. Julia, I don't know if you have the agenda with you actually, but
I can open it just a moment.
Yeah, okay. Just to recall some technical information.
Yeah, I think you got some quite some email from me with the agenda.
Oh, I can.
Just a moment, yeah. Yeah. I think it's, yeah, here. Yeah.
Okay, so as you can see, the day is divided in 3 different sessions. In the first part of the morning, we will have the introduction and compare different case studies, including TUNAP project, thanks also to the participation of the main important and active organization in the Mediterranean, such as MedPan and the Hellenic Center for Marine Research and SMILO, which is the Small Island initiatives. After that, after the coffee break, actually, Julia, could you scroll down a little bit the page? We will enter in the second session of the day, where we'll be split in different rooms, in thematic rooms, trying to discuss, as I mentioned before, challenges, opportunities, best practices of different specific topics. So Julia, we will make you enter in different rooms to discuss these topics with our moderators. So for this, I would like to specifically thank our TUNAP internal project partners for moderating the different rooms with us. And then we will have a conclusion and a wrap-up section where we will discuss the main results of the day and also try to figure out the future on MPA governance in the Mediterranean, thanks to all the contribution that we had during the day. So I don't know if Julia, if you have any other technical information to provide at this moment, or if we can start with the day. In any case, thanks to all of you for participating, attending the workshop, and I wish it will be a great exchanging moment for all of us. Thank you for your presence.
Okay, so thanks a lot for joining. Yes, I think you said everything that we need to know for the first session. For the second session, I will give you more instruction after. Just for you to know, it's just name you with your name and surname organization, as everyone did it, I see. And the second things, don't access in the second session with mobile because it may be tricky to see and to participate in the more dynamic session. So please let me introduce you now the first part, which is sharing the experience from implementing governance and flexible tools for managing the MPA, marine protected areas in the Mediterranean. So the first speaker, so we're going to have 3 different speakers plus 1. Pauline Malter, a colleague from MedWet, the Wetland Initiative. Susan Gallon from MedPan, whose mission, the mission of MedPan is supporting Mediterranean MPAs. So she's going to give an overview in general. Sofia Raizopoulou from the Institute of Oceanography at the Hellenic Center of Marine Research. She's going to speak about a specific project of assessing management effectiveness, ecological coherence in the Mediterranean marine protected area. And again, we're going to have Pauline Malter for SMILO, the Small Island Organization, bringing another project very similar where a flexible tool for managing marine protected area toward the biodiversity protection, enhancing biodiversity protection was implemented. So Pauline, it's your turn. Let me share your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Good morning, everybody. As Flavio and Julia said, I'm Pauline Malter. I'm a capitalization officer for the MedWet initiative for the tune-up project I'm going to present you. So here you can directly move to the next slide, Julia.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not mine.
Yeah, that's no problem. That's mine.
That's okay. That's my fault. I have some issues to connect with my computer, so. I think you were on the good.
Pauline, is that the right one?
Yes, good. This is the right one. Okay. So we can move directly to the next slide as well. Thank you. First, let's talk about the context. The Mediterranean basin is considered as one of the most important hotspots of biodiversity in the world in terms of richness of species and ecosystems. Well-governed and effectively managed marine protected areas are powerful tools for conserving nature and its ecosystemic services. In the Mediterranean, they cover only around 8% of the surface area of the basin, with strong regional disparities in terms of management plan implemented, regulations, and financial means allocated. Only half of them are considered to be effectively managed. We can move, thank you. A wide range of international legislation and policies, as well as regional instruments, currently assist countries in the protection and management of coastal and marine areas, from international to European and Mediterranean levels. Here you have some example, for example, the Barcelona or the Ramsar Convention, and the different European directives. Please, next slide, thank you. Despite this, there still are conflicts of interests for site management that lead to decisions based on sectoral policies or local approaches that have poor outcomes in terms of the effectiveness and trade-off. The Marine Strategy Framework Directive, as well as other European directives, require European countries to foster an integrated approach for site management through collaborative governance processes, combining multi-objective, multi-level, and multi-stakeholder decision-making. Next, please. So, originally developed for rivers in France in the early 80s and later replicated in neighboring countries like Italy, the environmental contract is a tool that has been developed and implemented to set the ground for voluntary-based commitments for the sustainable governance of water systems. There are negotiated environmental agreements for the active participation of all interested parties in the implementation of the river basin management plans, which is basically the definition from the Water Framework Directive. Environmental contracts represent tools for promoting and implementing participatory planning and management, favoring collaborative discussions between public and private stakeholders in order to integrate expertise and perception, share stakes and concerns, and to find common ground for action and commitments. These negotiated agreements are made between stakeholders based on inclusive and deliberative decision-making processes. In recent years, several European Union projects worked to further test the environmental contracts outside of France and Italy. In particular, in the framework of the Interreg Mediterranean Programme 2014-2020, the WetNet project, a previous project, tested the environmental contract as a governance tool for the sustainable management of protected wetlands in the European Mediterranean region. Supported by a later funding call, the Interreg Mediterranean Tune-Up project is currently testing the flexibility and feasibility of the tool for the governance of Mediterranean MPAs, activating the process on 10 pilot sites. Tune-Up, by testing and adapting the tool, aims to foster further coordination among stakeholders and decision makers, limiting the emergence of conflicts between conservation and economic issues to achieve the goal of biodiversity protection while addressing sustainability. Tune-Up aims at ensuring a higher coordination among stakeholders and decision makers while strengthening the network of Mediterranean MPAs and improving marine and coastal biodiversity through testing the strategies and actions implemented by the WetNet project in the context of Mediterranean marine protected areas, in order to improve the management and through it, of course, the effectiveness of the conservation policies on the target MPAs, transferring the produced knowledge and know-how to different contexts and to potential stakeholders in beyond Tune-Up target areas, of course, in particular to MPAs managers, through exchanging, transferring, and training activities. And finally, there is a capitalization phase which aims at mainstreaming and promoting the tested tool at regional and Mediterranean levels through exchanging, transferring, training, and lobbying activity. On the next slide, you can see the 10 pilot sites. Tune-Up is implemented by 12 partners from 7 countries. Some of our project partners are present today. The 7 countries are Greece, Spain, France, Italy, Albania, Slovenia, and Montenegro. So as I've just said, the project is implemented in 10 territories. We have 2 sites in Greece, 2 in Spain, 2 in Italy as well, and 1 in France, Albania, Slovenia, and Montenegro. Next slide, please, Julia, thanks. A methodology has been developed to support the applicability of the environmental contract tool in different European Mediterranean MPAs. You have here on the slide the link to access the websites to open the document. It presents the environmental contract as a 2-stage process which foresees a preparatory phase and a development phase being finalized. No, go back, please, Julia. Thank you. I will stay a bit on this slide. So I was saying that the environmental contract is a 2-stage process which foresees a preparatory phase and a development phase being finalized with the formalization of an agreement which is supposed to be legally binding. One of the first stages of the process consists in drafting the context analysis, which explores the target's areas features under the environmental, social, cultural, and economic point of views, and supports the identification of the perimeter of the contract as well as its influence area. It frames the main environmental and socio-economic features of the target area and collects the existing knowledge about the criticalities and values. It also investigates the regulatory framework and the territorial and landscape planning and policies. It includes, finally, a stakeholders analysis that identifies and lists the actors to be involved among key groups in the participative process, regarding first their contribution, their legitimacy, their willingness to engage, their influence, and the necessity to involve them. Starting from this previously built knowledge base and understanding of the target area dynamics and of the different actors' specific needs, 3 development scenarios are part of the decision-making process and need to be shaped as a substantial milestone towards the environmental contract's successful subscription. The organization of territorial laboratories provides stakeholders with the opportunity to be heard on MPA issues and to actively participate in its planning and management. After collecting their opinion on the issues the territory and its MPA are facing, people are invited to define its evolution based on 3 scenarios built around 3 strategic areas: governance, environment, and economic and social development. The very first scenario is a trend scenario, which seeks to reproduce the continuity of current trends, both positive and negative, and to evaluate how this would affect the target area, given the case no corrective measures or sustainable projects were to be implemented. Then the oriented scenario corresponds to the consideration of all the possible corrective actions, which would balance how the unsustainable tendencies of the actual processes taking place in the target area, addressing the STEM strategic areas as the trend scenario, to remind governance, environment, and economic and social development. Finally, the preferred scenario combined aspects of both the trend and the oriented scenario that are considered as the most relevant to the members of the community and engaged stakeholders. It will balance the potential reality of the future while providing on one side opportunities to adjust to changing development patterns, and on the other side to address the desired objectives of environmental protection and economic development. And the final output of the environmental contract is an administrative agreement with legal force. With its subscription, the parties formally commit themselves to carry out an action plan that has been developed according to the objectives emerged during the process, so during the territorial laboratories, establishing the priority actions, the rules, and the methods for implementing the strategy, as well as the procedure for monitoring and evaluation. It consists in a group of integrated actions to be implemented in a short or medium term and can be detailed into operational activities. Budget and necessary funds must be detailed in order to enable the contract to be consistent and attractive for funding. That's okay, now you can move to the other slides. So with TUNAP, 10 territories and their stakeholders committed themselves towards marine and coastal conservation through the implementation of the environmental contract. Stakeholders of the different territories involved have recognized the environmental contract as an inclusive and bottom-up approach, an holistic participative process, which is not only consultative but also proactive, and an organizational model that provides a framework for establishing a common working method for sharing knowledge, information, and expertise, creating a community of practice. It's also a tool that sets the ground for voluntary-based commitments undertaken by various stakeholders and paves the way to mid to long-term pioneering partnerships with the development and the implementation of the operational action plan. And finally, it enables interinstitutional and cross-sectorial collaboration and coordination between sectors, strategies, policies, and so on, allowing to finally consider biodiversity as a transversal issue to be treated as in the same ways as others. Next slide, please, Julia. So, the issue of formalizing the environmental contract at a regulative level is quite complex and has already emerged during the WetNet project. Partners encountered, some of our partners actually, encountered a legal limitation concerning the final agreement due to the term contract. The legal reference of the formal agreement depends on national and regional or regional regulation for public and private partnerships. The contractual approach proposed by the environmental contracts isn't applicable in all countries because the tool is not recognized in public text and policies, and therefore not legally binding in some countries. Besides Italy and France, which already have a well-established regulatory framework, the tool is not recognized by other countries' legislation. One of the solutions finally provided by the project was the formalization of memorandum of understandings, which are not legally binding, but represents a first step towards such an agreement. And finally, among the other issues to overcome, these formal agreements must be also financially binding for the subscribed parties. So the question of financial commitment remains. Some political recommendations advocate for a strategic and collaborative approach for Mediterranean MPAs management and biodiversity protection. The European Union legal framework is actually in place to encourage the use of this governance model. But this process requires a flexible approach. The different national legal frameworks and socio-economic challenges as well require environmental contracts to be individually tailored to each specific site. And this challenge could be addressed by defining specific policies with common governance standards while allowing for flexibility. The process also requires a specific organization with competent bodies for following up, monitoring, and controlling its implementation. So training, capacity building, and experience and knowledge sharing should be encouraged based on the already produced tools to guarantee the promotion of the tune-up experience and results and the widespread dissemination of the governance process advocated for. Several tools have been developed within tune-up. There was a summer school. There is a wiki source on coastal best practices as well as an e-learning module, and I have put the link of these two tools on the last slide. There is also a regional policy toolkit that provides the technical, financial, and legal keys for developing environmental contracts. And finally, the pilot sites have organized capacity building seminars for transferring the methodology to regional and or national authorities, which are responsible for designing, setting, and managing MPAs and managers of other MPAs that haven't been targeted yet by tune-up. Julia, if you just can go back to the previous slide, please, for the last, one of the last recommendations. So the process finally requires a specific budget dedicated over time for ensuring its operationalization, and a dedicated funding tailored to the operationalization of the process is then necessary, as well as a financial facility to ensure its sustainability. And it's okay, I've finished. Thanks for listening. And if you have any question, feel free to ask. Or I don't know, maybe Julia, you want the question to be asked after all the presentation?
Sorry. Yes, audio was off. It's tricky. So yes, we have a bit of delay. I would suggest to write your question for the speakers in the chat, and at the end of this session we can maybe answer. For example, any curiosity about the process, the outcome, the findings. This workshop is meant to just address also the outcome, the result, but also like the open challenge that we have identified across projects to be discussed together, because we know that you may have experience into that and you can be very helpful. So please write your question in the chat, and at the end, I think on the end of the panel, we can address the question. Thank you. Thank you, Pauline. Pauline Molter from MedWet. Now is the turn, let me interrupt the presentation. It's the turn of Suzanne Gallon from MedPan, whose mission, as I said, is supporting Mediterranean MPA. And you can present yourself better than me, and also your organization.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Julia. And thank you for the invitation. I will try to share the screen, but I don't think it's. Do you see it full screen now?
Not yet. We can still follow. Normally, and on top right, it's possible to.
Yeah, you don't see
Me
my
neither.
presentation.
Ah, okay.
You don't see it?
We can see it. Yeah, we can see it.
Ah,
Not in full
great.
screen, but we can see it. Don't worry. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks, Julia, for inviting us. So I'm Suzanne Gallen, and I'm the scientific officer of MedPan. And just briefly, if you don't know MedPan yet, MedPan is the network of managers in marine protected area in the Mediterranean. And just now, it gathers more than 130 organizations as member and partners throughout the 21 countries of the Mediterranean, and it represents more than 190 managed MPAs in the Mediterranean. So MedPan works mainly around 3 axes: to build capacity and share solution on MPA management, to build MPA knowledge for management and decision making, and also to develop and promote MPA policy in the Mediterranean and beyond with other key partners in the Med and beyond the Med. So, well, today I was going to give you an overview of governance and co-management in marine protected area, and that is based on the work that is carried out every 4 years by MedPan and SPARAC. SPARAC, a key partner of MedPan in the Mediterranean. It's the Regional Activity Center for Specially Protected Area of the Barcelona Convention. And so every 4 years, we carry out an assessment of the status of MPA in the Med. And so this is a map showing MPAs in the Mediterranean that you can find on MapAmed. And in the Mediterranean, we've got mainly 3 kinds of MPAs. We've got what we call national MPAs that are state designated. There's more than 7. Sorry?
We just see the first slide, the cover. I don't know if you are.
I will start again. Yeah, because if you don't see the slide, it's going to be hard for you
We
to
just
follow.
see the main, just the first one, the cover. Yeah, great.
I will try again.
Yeah, we could see the slide. They were just not moving, huh?
Does that work?
Yes.
Great. So we'll go quickly. And this is the map you should be seeing, yeah, of the Mediterranean with the national MPAs. Do you see that?
Yes.
Great, fantastic. So there's national MPAs, regional MPAs that are mainly the EU designated site, the Marine Natura 2000 site, and 1 international MPA so far, which is the Pelagos Sanctuary for marine mammals. And a quick update on the progress on MPA since 2016, as we carry out this status every 4 years. So to date, there's 8.3% of MPA in the Mediterranean. That's 2 points more than 2016, where we were around 6.5. As a reminder, the target was 10% by 2020, so we haven't reached that. And the new target of 2030 is 30% of MPA and of effective area-based conservation measure. And I also indicated 0.04 NTZ as no-tech zone. Also as a reminder, in 2016, the Mediterranean community in Tanger set a target of 2% of no-tech zone in the Mediterranean. And there has been no progress in no-tech zone between 2016 and 2020. We still have 0.04, as there's only been 50 kilometers of no-tech zone created in the last 4 years. Coming to the subject today that I wanted quickly to share with you. So within that status that we carry out every 4 years, we share a questionnaire largely with all MPAs manager through the Mediterranean. And here I'm showing you results of nationally designated MPA. For which we had 264 nationally designated MPA in the MPA out of the 1,087 MPA in the Med. And so we looked at the presence of a governance council in the MPAs. And you have two graphs here because on the left, it's based on the number of MPA that have answered the questionnaire. And on the right, it's what those MPA represent in terms of surface, spatial coverage. So it's just to show you that while not all MPA has answered the questionnaire, it represents most of the MPA in terms of surface of MPA in the Mediterranean. And you can see on the right graph that in terms of surface for the 2/3 of the MPA, there is no governance council in those nationally designated MPA. And also regarding the governance council, we looked at the nature of the management body of the MPA, such as was it a national ministerial agency, a government delegated management, a joint governance, local community, NGOs, or subnational ministerial agency managing the MPA. And for those different categories, we looked at again if they had a governance council or not. And it's just to look at where there's maybe some categories of management body that needs more support, awareness raising for them to put in place a governance council for the MPA. Other result that I wanted to share with you today was to look at the different stakeholders that are involved in the governance councils of MPAs, again with a national status. So that's why in brackets I indicated the number of answers, and you have less answer here because it's the result for those that have a governance council. So those MPA that don't have a governance council haven't answered that question. So, and there was a range of stakeholders that they could choose from public administration, scientists, NGOs, and up to more like representative of economic sectors. And we look at who were mostly represented in the governance council. You will also see that there's a big group that represents 60% of the governance council that are other stakeholders. So we need to do more work there to identify those other stakeholders that represent a big part of the governance council in MPAs. Another key result was looking at the co-management in those Mediterranean MPA of national status, and we looked at co-management strictest senses. So when stakeholders contribute directly to decision-making on the management of the MPA. Also, when stakeholders are consulted, so they can contribute to the discussion, but they not participate in the decision-making. And when there's no system in place for stakeholders to contribute to decision-making. So again, here you're looking at the answer for MPAs with a national status in the Mediterranean region. And you can see about that for half of them, we have no information. So we don't know if they don't have or if they just didn't answer. But for those that we have the answer, you can see that the majority is a consultation system when there is some kind of co-management. And the co-management stricter census represents just over 10% of those MPA with a national status. And so these are the facts today in Mediterranean MPA. and also so how we can improve that. And I wanted briefly to share some of the key recommendations that came out from the last Mediterranean MPA Forum. So this is a highly participatory process that is organized every 4 years, again with SPARAC, a key partner. And at the end of last year, it was organized in Monaco with the support of the Prince Albert Monaco Foundation. And it brings together all MPA practitioners and actors, and also economic sector, so beyond MPA actors, together to see how MPAs can reach their targets. So here we're looking at the post-2020 target, and this is a process that started in 2012 to draft the first roadmap for MPAs for reaching the 2020 target. So now this new roadmap is for the post-2020 target. And in this post-2020 roadmap for Mediterranean MPA, there's a key recommendation on governance and co-management, which is to empower MPA managers through legal and other mechanisms to apply a decentralized governance system that features participatory processes and co-management approaches and be more responsive to local conditions. So there are 32 recommendations in this roadmap, and that is the result of a 2-year consultation process with many actors around the Mediterranean. And the strategy and action for implementation for this recommendation to decentralize governance. So some of the key actions are to develop national government legislation that empowers MPA managers in decision-making, to develop national government legislation that requires participatory planning and co-management with relevant economic sectors and local population, to develop capacity and training for MPA managers and stakeholders in participatory approaches and co-management, and to develop MPA steering committee or advisory committee at the local level that include all stakeholders group and can link science, managers, and policies. And those key recommendation and action to reach those targets that have been identified for these really big participatory processes, that is the roadmap, is fed with many of the experience and expertise of all the actors on MPA throughout the Med. And within MedPan, for example, there's lots of these recommendations that are similar, who stem from ongoing projects, such as we also have an Interreg Mediterranean project on MPA networks, and the Cogito project, and for example, the Interreg MPA project that is working with 7 pilot MPAs on fishery, mobile species and financing in several countries, included several pilot action on governance, with some, the activity dedicated to support manager networks, training, and strategic recommendation, including some on governance and co-management. And for example, the pilot activity of Porcro in the south of France, they're looking at implementing management measure in the adjacent area of the heart of the MPA. And to do that, to implement new measure in this adjacency where there was no specific management measure in place before they started this participatory processes, bringing actors together to discuss, what could be done in this water. And, it's a process that takes time, but that is highly successful in the end. And the same with the Cogito project that, involves 70 pilot MPA on co-management in Tunisia, Algeria, Lebanon, Turkey, Morocco, and Albania, so mainly the south of the Mediterranean. And again, here, there's dedicated capacity building activity, advocacy, and awareness raising, and more specifically on governance and co-management. And I just wanted to finish that some of the key recommendations are being addressed, by us, but not only us, by other key partners around the Med. And here I just wanted to to share one of the activity that MedBan has been implemented since 2019, that is to have a regular training program dedicated to a PA manager throughout the Med and coordinated and in line with other training program provided by other key actors such as IUCN and SPARAC and VVED Med and etc. So MPA are hosting those training program. And I just wanted to mention that there's a training happening next week in the Gokova MPA that will bring pairs of managers and fishermen to build participatory approaches to managing fishery activity in your MPA. And I will stop here. I hope it was not too much information. I was trying to give you facts and also some example of activities that are carrying out, and also the great work that all of us and all of you are doing throughout the Mediterranean to improve the expertise and knowledge on this important topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I think it was very interesting, especially the numbers, to have the overview. And I see that the direction is the co-management, definitely. And so let's go to a specific case. Thank you again. If you have any question to Susan, we won't have time maybe to answer by voice, but we can still, use the chat and answer. For example, Romain has asked, what's the main difference between a management plan and an environmental contract? So now we can answer to everybody. So it's useful, I guess, for everybody. And if you have any question to Susan, please use the chat and Susan can answer everybody. So let me introduce you now, Sofia Raizopoulou, or Raizopoulou.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Welcome. From the Institute of Oceanography of the Hellenic Center of Marine Research, Susan, she's going to speak about specific case of implementing a flexible tool of co-management in the Mediterranean. And what was the process of assessing management, and especially want to know about the outcome, the result, and the open challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the invitation. I don't know if you can see. I try to share my screen.
I can see, not in full screen. So if
okay.
you
See the full screen now. No.
Now we see the notes. You can go.
Okay, yeah.
To slideshow, I guess.
Slideshow.
F5.
No.
Just go up the slideshow. No.
I cannot find, yeah.
Insert design transition animation slideshow should be there.
Yeah.
I have another presentation somewhere, but just like there.
Just, Katerina, μπορείς να μου δείξεις ποιο είναι το slideshow? Δεν το βλέπω. Just.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, there is this type of things that we do million of times, and when it comes the attention of everyone at the same time,
No, it's I cannot see the button. I usually find it, but no.
Or with F5.
Maybe, yeah.
F5 and it should start. Sometimes it gets trapped because it's a share screen.
Σοφία, πάτα F5. Ή αλλιώς είναι το...
No, I don't know why.
Είναι δίπλα στο Zoom. Κάτω δεξιά.
That's it, yeah. Don't worry, we can see it.
You can see it better now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
fine, don't worry.
There is an issue here with that.
Sorry, Sofia, you can go to slideshow.
Oh, yeah.
On the top, okay. And start from the beginning.
Yeah. Start
left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, finally.
Don't worry.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. But now I cannot move the buttons. No, I don't know why it doesn't work. I will go on this. Can you see the second slide?
Yes.
Okay, otherwise it doesn't move. I don't know why it's blocked. I'm sorry. Yes, I will present mostly some of the main outcomes of Project COENET. COENET was mostly focused to assess the existing network of marine protected areas in the Adriatic, and also the ecological coherence and the management effectiveness, and also to propose a new network of marine protected areas. Firstly, just to introduce a part of the European legislation, as you may know, that such as the marine strategy, which has a strong emphasis on creating networks of marine protected areas, and a strong emphasis also on regional coordination of the programs of measures. So it is proposed the improvement of the existing networks and assess the ecological coherence within the marine regions in Europe. Also, topics that have been given recent attention is integration of these future MPAs networks and restoration areas proposed in the national maritime plans and support the biodiversity conservation and the European Green Deal efforts to the climate change. So there is a shift from a single MPA to MPAs networks in order to build a more holistic vision on biodiversity conservation and management following the ecosystem approach. So this network should include marine protected areas, of course, but also other effective area-based conservation measures, such as other areas with restrictions, such as the fisheries protected areas, military areas, archaeological sites, where limitations on the human activities are posed. Moreover, they should be well connected and covering coastal, offshore, and deep sea ecosystems. So to have a better representation, so different habitats within the marine environment. And should be aiming to conserve and be included in the programs of measures of implementation of the marine strategy to achieve the good ecological status in marine waters. Why do we need MPA networks? We need because single species conservation approaches have been proved ineffective to protect and conserve habitats. MPAs work as separate entities, and thus non-functional ecological networks are established within the Mediterranean. And also we have to reach this target, the APIC target of 10%, and move towards the EU biodiversity strategy of 2030 with the aim to protect at least 30% of the sea. So Mediterranean experts are committed to adopt this holistic approach, continue the establishment of new MPAs, create effective networks of marine protected areas. Here, just to show you the main criteria used in COENET project in order to assess the ecological coherence, and they were based on the CBD criteria, which, as you may know, the representativity, the replication of species. One of the major factors was the connectivity between MPAs, and this was approached through biophysical modeling. And of course, another criterion, the adequacy of MPA, which is mainly related to site-specific characteristics, such as the size, the levels of protections within the MPA, etc. I will not stay much in the results, just the main outcome, which is this map indicating the Adriatic Sea. With blue color, you may see the existing network of marine protected areas in the Adriatic, and red color, the new proposed MPAs, covering also the high seas in COENET project. Of course, that is here on the southern eastern part of the Adriatic, there is a gap, since the information was limited. However, we all know that simply increasing the spatial extent of marine protected areas without an effective management and, of course, the resources to support this effective management will not result in conservation, and we have the so-called paper patch without a management plan. What is the management effectiveness? I'd like this definition of Hawkins, defining as effective management as the measures that results in the improvement, maintenance, or restoration of nature, the reduction of threats, and the provision of ecosystem services. And there are some quite good management effectiveness frameworks to evaluate how to evaluate, also reported in the presentation of the first presentation, as far as I remember, some of these elements which are important in order to assess the management effectiveness. Here you may see the framework of IUCN. However, all these frameworks are mostly theoretical, and there is no a clear methodology, what are the main indicators to assess, etc., and not common indicators in many cases. So within the Coherent project, we have tried, in order to assess and reply key questions for the management effectiveness, we focus on the left side. You may see the main elements that we have tried to collect information and reply on these questions. And the main elements were knowledge on the MPA. This is efficient monitoring on the ecological characteristic of the sites. And then some sub-criteria that I will not show on the protected values, especially collected information, even from monitoring networks, even from questionnaires from the MPAs manager, and how do they protect the species, habitats, and sociocultural values. If these MPAs are well managed to tackle the main pressures within the MPA and surrounding the MPA. And then governance issues, such as they have the proper staff, the means to manage the MPAs, and the budget, of course. And some issues on communication and outreach, if there is enough external visibility of the importance of the protected area to create the support by the general public. And I will show some results on this, especially for the Adriatic. And you can see here on the first, the upper graph, that the major part, the percentage of the MPAs without a management plan also here is high, is 64% around, and 35 only MPAs have a clear management plan. From this 35%, only 24% is implemented, and partly 70% is partly implemented. And the major part, there is a management plan, but it's not implemented. What kind of information exists? We have tried to map which MPAs are monitored, especially within the European legislation, such as the Marine Strategy or Water Framework Directive, mostly the Water Framework, because they are coastal MPAs. So only a part still, you can see here, 35% is monitored, and a very few part has long-term data series of species and habitats protected. And also the budget is very low for monitoring. Usually is less than 5,000 euros per year for monitoring activities. And here we approach the management effectiveness in another way. We analyze all the human activities, the sea activities, and here you may see an index of cumulative pressure analysis indicating the low, moderate, high, and very high cumulative pressures. The red is the high. And we overlap the marine protected areas in this map. And as you may see, a large part, especially in the northern Adriatic of marine protected areas, are located in high pressure areas, which means that the management is already difficult to be done under these conditions. A lot of human activities surrounding and within the MPAs. So why the management effectiveness has not been achieved? Some of the main issues are that in many cases, the establishment and the management plans of the MPAs have been implemented in absence of high quality scientific information. Moreover, there is no effective implementation of the Natura 2000 network and also of the environmental policies such as the marine strategy and water framework. The various actors involved in the use and the protection of the marine space, they rarely interact with no involvement of MPA managers in the preparation of programs or measures and in processes of marine spatial planning. And there is also little or no collaboration with different national authorities. Of course, there are also limited resources, as mentioned before. So key issues on management effectiveness are how, and it is a challenge to develop common indicators to assess management effectiveness, and this should be based on three main pillars: ecological, socioeconomic, and governance aspects, and should be in line with the national and European policies. Also, it's important, it's a crucial point to map the human pressures inside and outside the marine protected areas. And in order to design management measures, priorities, and decisions. Create adequate governance networks linking all the relevant environmental legislations at various scales. And of course, a main factor is the stakeholder engagement, since associating economic benefits for local people is producing always positive conservation outcomes. And there was some good examples in the Adriatic. Finally, I would like to finalize that adaptive management should be applied. It's necessary since there is not available knowledge. As more knowledge becomes available through targeted research, monitoring, adaptive management can be a mechanism, the main mechanism for incorporating all this new information and refine the management plans and implement the management plans and goals in order to protect the areas. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm sorry for that.
No problem, Sofia. Thanks to you for this presentation. So very clear what was the challenges and that remain open. No? Some of them will be discussed in the second session. Thanks.
Thank you.
So now let me hand over to Pauline Molter, which is now on behalf of another project she supervised at SMILO, the Small Island Organization, about the same topic, so implementing flexible tool-off management in marine protected area to reach a better biodiversity protection.
Yes, thank you, Julia. Just to bring some clarification here, I'm not only a capitalization officer for the Medwet Initiative and the TUNEP project. I'm also, as a freelance consultant, I'm also involved in the SMILO initiative as a member of its evaluation committee. That's why, as nobody from SMILO organization could be here today, I've been asked to make the presentation. I would like to take the opportunity to apologize to the representatives of the NGO SMILO, Maxime Prodomides, its president, and Sylvain Petit, its executive secretary, who were unable to attend this meeting today as they were detained on other missions. So I'm not the one who has prepared this presentation, so I will try to move on directly to the most interesting slides. I mean, for today's topic, of course. But for those of you who haven't heard about the SMILO organization, I will present it briefly. So the Small Island Organization is an independent NGO which assists small islands of less than 150 square kilometers that wish to work towards managing their territory more sustainably. It was an initiative originally created by the Conservatoire du Littoral in 2013, and it has become an independent NGO since 2016. Next slide, please, Julia. Okay, so like I've just said, the territorial scope is focusing on small island, less than 150. The project gathered 35 members all around the world, and you have some sites in the Mediterranean area, of course. I'm sorry, as I'm joining you from my mobile device. I can see I have to zoom on the slide. So you have sites in Portugal, Pulatra, in Greece, in Tunisia, Malta, in Croatia as well, in France. That's it for the Mediterranean, it seems. Okay, next slide, please, Julia. Okay, so the thematic scope that are treated by the SMILO initiative are, of course, the governance, which is of most interest for us today, terrestrial and marine biodiversity, water, waste, landscapes and heritage, as well as energy, and of course, human activities as well. Next slide. So SMILO today, as I've just told you, gathered 45 islands in 20 countries, and 150 members and partners. Around 30 projects are currently implemented for a total of more than 1 million euros that were invested in 4 years. And here you have the panel of key technical, financial, and institutional partners. So the French Agency for the Development, the French Fund for the Environment, la Fondation Prince Albert II de Monaco, of course, le Conservatoire du Littoral, and other partners as well. So to explain the label SMILO, Julia, can you move to the next slide, please? Okay, so the Sustainable Island label developed by SMILO offers tangible proof of an island's commitment and international recognition of efforts made by small islands, as well as showcasing the experimental regions that play a role in the ecological transition. The label aims to highlight the challenges inherent in conserving small islands. We can see on the next slide the process. So SMILO label helps to recognize islands involved in a continuous improvement process, which includes several steps. The first one is about the establishment of an island committee, and I will go back later on this specific point, of course, that represents all the stakeholders of the area. Then these stakeholders are asked to adhere to the SMILO philosophy and commit themselves to the certification process for developing a territory diagnosis, as well as defining the island's issues and priorities, like within UNOP and the environmental contract. There is a phase for assessing the interim conditions to identify efforts already provided by the island, as well as its commitment, in the process. We have a phase where measures, concrete actions are implemented that contribute to achieve the island's priority objectives. And finally, there is a final assessment, which is carried out to check if the island can obtain the label, and a monitoring and evaluation phase as well for maintaining efforts to improve the sustainability of the area and to keep the label. So for this famous island committee is a keystone of the SMILO program and brings together the island's main stakeholders for planning the sustainable development of their environment around a common and shared vision. It is a permanent liaison body with the SMILO office. Locally, it helps to update users and managerial knowledge of the area. Its members exchange information regarding the island's problems and priority issues. It is a place for discussion, mediation, and dialogue, and aims to prevent conflicts between human activities and the preservation of natural resources, and to promote dialogue between the various stakeholders. Through a transparent and consensus-based process, the Island Committee members collectively suggest, direct, and monitor the measures planned to achieve the objectives set out in the island's strategic plan. These measures may be carried out by one or more members of the committee. There is a cooperation agreement which is signed by the Island Committee representative when the island commits to the labeling process. This contract details all of the commitments made by the island as well as the SMILO Association throughout this process. These steps correspond to the island's official application to obtain the Sustainable Island label. And the committee shall be at least composed of a representative of local public institutions, representatives of local communities, one or many of them, a representative of a locally established association, one site manager representative, if applicable, and representatives of the island's main economic industries, agriculture, fishing, tourism, etc., etc. The Island Committee members must justify their action capabilities, technically or financially, regarding priority issues for the island covered by SMILO. Like we said before, water, energy, waste, biodiversity, and ecosystems and landscapes. A committee of or similar group to the Island Committee may pre-exist on the island. A committee whose composition and functions are similar but incomplete in regards to the SMILO criteria will have to integrate new members and new requirements from the Sustainable Island label in its field of competence. Lastly, if the island does not have such a body, the Island Committee must be created ad hoc. So, and we go very quickly on these last slides. The process relies on a two-step assessment for checking the implementation of concrete actions and the achievement of sectoral goals. The intermediary assessment, for example, aims at checking the certification process first step have been implemented in order for the island to receive the label in progress and some sectoral awards regarding the thematic scope we saw before, and maybe the Sustainable Island label. Thank you. Throughout this process, several tools are available to the island as technical support. So strategic and technical support is provided through the availability of experts and facilitators and good practice sheets as well, and by participating in technical workshops and inter-island meetings. And when eligible, they can have also access to the island's fund in order to finance measures to achieve priority objectives. And next slide, please. So to support islands as they work toward the label, SMILO has established the Islands Fund, which helps financing concrete, innovative operations on islands that contribute to protecting terrestrial and marine biodiversity. And that's it. You can go directly to the last slide. Thanks for listening. Yeah, you can switch on this one. You can move on to the next slide. Thanks. Thanks for listening. Here you have the email address of the Secretariat if you have any question I wouldn't be able to answer correctly. So thank you.
So thanks, Pauline, for this presentation. So now we have, if you have any question for Sophia, for Suzanne, and for Pauline, you can write. I mean, we do have 5 minutes if you want. Otherwise, we can go on coffee break, and I will introduce you to the second session. First of all, thank you for everybody to be here. Thanks a lot for everybody who just joined just 10 minutes ago. So here is Biodiversity into Action, the importance of governance mechanisms for managing MPA. In this first part, we have seen some similar projects and also some data about MPA management and co-management in the Mediterranean. And we have identified across more or less the challenges, the open challenges that need to be addressed and need to be discussed and need to be still solved, okay? So, and therefore in the second part, we want you to join, some rooms session will be created, and then you will be joining this room to discuss and also to get to know each other. Of course, feel free to do that you enjoy your coffee at home or in the office. So I will introduce, as we have just some minutes of delay, I will be very, very quick. What is happening now? Please don't exit the Zoom right now, because we have created the session and you are already assigned. Just some information. We're gonna have like a briefing, a brainstorming of 45 minutes. If you need a couple of minutes more, no problem. I'm gonna go across the rooms to see if you need more time. To see what we have identified during these weeks, the most common challenge within the TUNAP project in implementing this flexible tool of management to enhance and to protect better the biodiversity of the marine protected area. And we also have we have seen also in the project that you have listened right now, the common challenge that we had, and then we have wrote down the main open points that we would need your help to see if there is any solution or anything that you have experienced that can be helpful. Some technical information. So don't exit the session, stay with us. You can be redirected after this very short presentation about the rooms. You can't, unfortunately, decide where to go. So you're gonna go randomly one of them, because it gets too difficult as we have 40, 50 people. But I'm sure, you know, some of this question, this challenge you have encountered in your experience, in your life, as all of you are working in management, governance, environmental, contract, and similar. So the second, you cannot move from one room to another. But yeah, just be there. If you want to say something, if you have anything comes to mind, very quickly. We won't have so much time, I mean, to introduce ourselves or to explain even further. I will show you now which are the main challenge that we want to address right now. The first one is about inclusivity. It's a very important topic. So every time there is a co-management and in a participatory process, and a participatory process, you need to involve everybody. But who? So you need to, of course, to get a mapping, but sometimes it may happen that people feel excluded. You may, I don't know, forget somebody on the way. Maybe people don't feel engaged enough. They don't understand the sense of what they are doing. So sometimes participatory process can be, cannot be completely well balanced, okay? There is also the topic of diversity. The more diverse is a room for a participatory process for meetings, the better are the results. So you need to be sure that you have equal gender, generational, in order to have more ideas and diverse ideas. So these are basically the main challenges. I'm sure you have participated, taking part in other participatory process or co-management where you need to define and take decision. So how to identify correct stakeholders in the area and to be involved in the participatory process, how to be sure we aren't excluding somebody or important sector or important voices, how to make everybody feel involved, engaged, and empowered, so to feel that they can make a difference. How to deliver the best output possible, also from diversity, as said. The moderators here are Alex Srekar from ZRFC, which is the research center of the Slovenian Academy of Science and Art. Thanks for being here. Is one of our partners for TuneUp and for moderating.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Together with Santiago Alfonso Fernandez from Spain, which is also a special planning organization working there also in the sustainable development. Welcome.
Thank you, Julia. Hello, everyone.
So you're going to meet them very soon in your room if you come to the number one. So the second issue is about finding a working process. So before taking decision, you need to give a working process. So in the environmental contract, the working process, it's very clear, but sometimes people, you know, they have different style of managing or taking decision. You have the politician, you have the organization, you have the industry, you have the fishermen, you have very different type of people that they take decision in a different way. And you need to align them to a working process and also to make them feel that this working process can bring better results. So how to make this working method truly shared among the stakeholders. So this is a big question. Of course, one size fits all for sure is not applicable, but consider also the different Mediterranean context. However, it should be a way to have this working process in place and also to be understood and to be followed. Okay, it's also a matter of engagement. So the moderators of the room are Andrea Rossi and Stefano Salviati from APA Program, Italy. Welcome.
Hello, hello everybody.
So in room 2. Thanks for taking part and thanks for moderating this room. Then we have the number 3 is about scaling up. I just explained that to go from one level to another level and to be recognized, you need to scale up, which is one of the hardest part actually. We also have encountered, and also the part we are working on, also with TuneUp to find a model which is recognized internationally. So the main challenges are how to implement a new and different governance model with a long-term plan, how to make sure that the project could scale up to an international level and even go ahead after the project time, basically. So the moderators of this room are Romina Dascanio from Uniroma 3, and Giancarlo Gusmaroli from MEDSI, Mediterranean Sea and Coast Foundation. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, hello.
Hi. They're going to explain you better also in the rooms in the intro what I'm just telling you. The number 3, it's very interesting. It's how to talk to political decision makers. Sometimes it can be a lack of communication, miscommunication, misunderstanding, different style in languages, different agendas, conflict of interest, barriers, and also because of the communication, or mainly because of the communication. An effective communication, how to address successfully to political decision maker, how to keep them in the loop, how to involve them in the tools, how to be better aligned. So at the end, how to be more effective with the communication and make this communication actionable from people that they can really take action on. Moderator of this room is Kalia Spala from the management of unit of Archelos Valley and Ambrakikos Wolf Protected Area, Greece. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you. So please don't exit the room and don't right now, just stay with us. 5 minutes, you will be redirected in the room. For any question, you can still write to me, Giulia Remita or Giorgia Loy, technical question. For the rest, just have fun. You have very short time, be quick, be to the point, and enjoy. So 5 minutes, we're gonna be redirect all of us. Please accept the invitation. Sorry, you need to accept the invitation in order to enter. Katarina, please accept the invitation. Irin, great. Orita from Japan, hello. Please accept the invitation to room 2. Francesca Muscas, please accept the invitation for room 3. Pericles, also room 3. You need to accept the invitation. From mobile can be tricky. You have enter, a button, it's written enter. Also from room 4, Janet Sterle, please accept the invitation. Write in chat if you don't find this invitation. We try to send you again this invitation. And that's it. You're not so many outside. Just let us know who hasn't got the invitation to the room, please.
Does anybody else who want to share his experience or her experience with a problem in the context analysis redaction?
Sorry, I forgot to say that.
Yeah.
We in the context analysis, we think that it's really important to have an expert on legal issues on the regional government to make a clear and a sound analysis about how to integrate the contract into the regional government and
that in the legal framework.
Yeah, in the legal framework, and that will allow us to escalate into the government, into the ministry. But for us, it was really helpful to have that analysis and then to speak with the regional government. And we are already working in that issue to integrate. But we have a really good context. So legally speaking, is possible because we have a similar tool in our legislation. But what we need to work now is to las voluntades. I don't know how to say this in English. In finding the person who wants to implement the contract. I don't know. Okay. Let me check. The translator will tell you the proper word. Yes.
Voluntary. Oh.
Yeah, it's not voluntary because it's.
You have difficult to find people that have the. Who want to do this in the
regional government. I mean, it's legally it's possible, but it's like they don't if they are not ready to incorporate another tool for governance.
There is not the will in the regional
government. That's right. And it's not the will. They are kind of. Skeptical,
and communication is also very important to bring together all the stakeholders, to bring together to a table all the stakeholders from different sectors.
And you mentioned the fact that you tried from the beginning of the project to have all the stakeholders informed and trying to get the best of their joint presence.
Yes, the presence first of all, and then just to be sure that we all understand and we have common goals.
Yes. Thank you, Alexandra. Saba?
I think I can mention something about how we try to improve the lack of communication in our project. We found that when we are trying to make sure that with the fish, to communicate with the fishermen and the stakeholders that we are all having common rules, like Alexandra mentioned, we found that showing the previous work we have done has really helped. For example, showing the photos from field studies we have done to collect data, showing them to fishermen, telling what we have done before, laying the groundwork about this. Actually, we found that lets them to trust us, and actually to materialize so that the communication isn't just on the theory plane, but it's actual material things that we have done, and showing them examples. We found that makes them trust the communication a lot more. So just a small change, but we found it was very helpful to us. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Saba, for your intervention. And you think that this this perspective could be helpful in influencing policy making? I mean, when you have already have the mutuality from all stakeholders, consensus and engagement, is this helping delivering the message and the actions to the decision makers?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Someone else would like to comment on problems or solutions or best practices that have been experienced?
Yeah, I don't know if we have these people have introduced themselves, maybe.
Yes, we already introduced. Okay.
So it's maybe to know if they have never experienced to communicate to to political decision makers for environmental issue in general. What was the experience? I can tell you mine if you want.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, in general, yeah, if we talk about political decision, as we meant in Italy, it's sometimes very hard because you need to align with their own interest. So what is their own interest? What is the main interest that they have that can be, how do you say, can be shared with this project? So you need to find a good angle, otherwise they're not gonna neither listen, actually, unfortunately, even if it's something good for the community. I mean, maybe it's very local, what I'm saying, but you need to understand what is their mission as a politician, and then to find a good angle to say, okay, this is good for you because with this you can demonstrate to your people these, as you said. So it's very important to be, I don't know, tactical with the political decision makers, because they're not going to make things for good, you know. Sometimes they need yeah. And in the other side, the worst part of it is that sometimes when the project is successful, they give credit to that. So they say, okay, this is because of me. But I mean, it's part of the game. So I don't know if I was clear enough, but in general, to find that the angle for them to say, okay, this is good for you because of these. Of course, maybe not public, in public, those questions, but more like privately. But of course, if the project will be successful, sometimes they will give credit. They will say, okay, thanks to me, we have done that. Huh? It's part of the game. Huh? But yes. I guess it's, I don't know if it's just in Italy, but this is what I experienced. Yeah, I don't know, maybe there is anybody else. I don't know how it's in Greece.
For Greece, it's the same, I think.
It's the same, yeah.
Yes, it's very difficult. That's why I said before that first of all, they have to understand that you have common interests. They have to understand what you are doing. And what I wanted to add before is that this requires an increased effort. Before the project start, we couldn't imagine that you need so much energy, time, and resources to do all these communications. And sometimes these are not
effective, yeah,
foreseen before.
Yeah, it really requires a lot of energy, and you need to enter in their mind as a political decision maker, because as a politician, otherwise you're not gonna understand, because they're not gonna make their own work, you know, homework. Okay, I listen, I do. It's not so easy. I think it's most of the energy in every implementation goes to deal with those people, and with all the respect, of course, because maybe among us, there is the political decision makers. Sure, sometimes it's so much energy, you know, that you think, is it worthy? You know, is that worthy? You know, and what I've also experienced that they can change their mind very easily. So even when sometimes they're not. The worst is of course when they go against something, but also when they don't say anything, they're just inactive and passive. And the best is to have some sort of reaction at least, which is always a communication, even if you cannot agree on that, but maybe we can find a compromise. But yeah, definitely, I think this is something that we have experienced, Greece, Italy. Let's talk with somebody else. For example, Katerina is still Greece, right? Or Yanni. We are all Greece in Greece. Tabata,
the majority.
I'm Italian.
Okay, good.
I wanted only to, because I've spoken before you arrived.
Okay.
Just highlighting a bit of positivity aspect of my little experience, as I've been in the academic world for a bit, and now I'm approaching communication, and definitely I've seen a good acceptance from political, you know, aspect. I mean, from decision makers. Especially with what Alexandra said. So having the same goal and trying to align with the same time frame, and, you know, especially the agenda, as she was mentioning. But if you have the goal in your head and it's specific, and you are able to describe it like really easily, as I was trying to say, like by lowering a bit the vocabulary, it gets really easy to be in contact with somebody. I mean, to have you know, a response by somebody who's really interested. Of course, you do get a lot of people saying, oh, no, I don't understand, I don't like it. But at the same time, in a big group, especially in small communities I was talking about, you definitely get at least one talking about, oh, I'm interested in this, let's go on to it. So especially I'm talking about vocabulary in a scientific way. If you're able to make everyone understand what you're talking about, it gets really easy to communicate. So that's it's a bit of positive, because I've just started. I don't have long-term experience, but definitely I've seen most of the things you said, even if it's just, you know, the beginning of of my career in this.
Thank you, Saba. I also have a question. It's just a curiosity, but Saba, yeah.
Like you mentioned, we are having the similar problems, and I wanted to ask a new question actually. So here in our current project, some of the focus areas are under some protection status, so they are under some management plans, and we are dealing with some friction against the policymakers and some stakeholders, because they are somewhat frightened that we are quote unquote rebelling against their management plan. We are trying to communicate better with the stakeholders to say, not to say that management plan, it wasn't wrong, it was good, it is great that there's a status, but it's almost harder to implement a new thing to a present management plan compared to an area that there is no status, no management plan at all. Then it's easier, but it's, I would like to hear your opinion on lowering the friction with their past decisions. Do you have anything to add to that? And thank you.
I think that that's the point where participatory approaches are gaining ground. This governance model helps reduce these problems. When you design, you co-design a management plan along with all the key stakeholders, then you assure consensus on the measures, because a management plan implicates actions that must be implemented. So before this, having mutual interest in the management plan, I think that reduces the risk of failure. And this is also a crucial part of influencing those that are responsible for taking the decision. I don't know if...
Yeah, I think friction from the past are always a problem, because, you know, they don't believe nothing will be changed. They're very skeptical. Okay, comes something new. Sometimes people are afraid about new things, and if they don't understand, if they don't experience. But as you said, once you say, okay, let's decide how this time decision will be taken, it can help reduce friction. I've seen that. I've seen that in not in TUNUP, in other projects, that people that really hate each other because of previous past, maybe even past 10 years earlier, because they have something to do, and there are other people, and there is also a mediator, maybe somebody that speaks to them and speaks to the other side. They come to the table, and there it's a matter of empowering them, giving also responsibilities, even a little one, to say, okay, this is your role in the team. But yeah, not everybody is the same. I don't know if then at the end it helped really reduce friction, because this is something that we experienced also with MedC, which I'm cooperating with. Sometimes they really bring their past into the present, and it's very hard to get out of it. So you just wait them to be changed at one point, but sometimes there is also, yeah, especially in small communities, yeah, you can do that. It's a very interesting question. I don't know if anyone else, Panagiotis or Yanni, Tabata, how to reduce this past friction. But the working process, it's something that can help. Yeah.
That was the fact that we have dealt in Ambrakikos Gulf during the previous phase of the project, when we prepared and tried to implement the local memorandum of understanding, where all stakeholders were willing to commit and to participate, to have their most what they wanted the most is to be recipients of the information. They felt from previous situations that they were out of the cycle of the management of the area. So what they were asking is to have and to add in a regular basis discussions, meetings, to have an information, regular information flow among all stakeholders.
Just out of curiosity, for the information flow, what do you prefer right now, no, in this post-COVID era? Sending email, calling, traditional way, meeting in person, SMS, WhatsApp? Because I've seen that sometimes, you know, those that they want to collaborate and are political decision makers, they can really make a difference. We really sometimes we try, I don't know, on social media to communicate, because everybody it's somehow different, and sometimes the email don't get any answer, and this is happening very, very often, especially with municipalities and small one. You write an email and you need to call, and you need to, but maybe you need also to have an answer because a meeting is coming and you need to know if it's going to be there and so on. So what do you think it's also, I asked to everyone, what's the most effective tool nowadays to communicate with these political decision makers? Everybody.
Very good question, Julia.
Alexandra.
From our experience as well, again, I think with this project I learned what is human management. So I still believe, because we are humans, that although we had through COVID, we had workshops and meetings through all these means, electronic means, I still believe that the human touch, the meetings, the focus groups remain the most important. And what we try to have with the public authorities is the connection, the personal connection. This is very important, because sometimes public authorities, they are disconnected from local communities. So this is very important, I think. That's why I said that you need a lot of energy and time to spend just on communication, and to make everybody feel important and part of something.
I agree with Alexandra, and yes, the best, what I was talking about of the positive aspects of all this, it was going on place, on site, and showing your personal experience, as somebody else was saying, but especially being in person in the place. Obviously, with COVID, we have, you know, we had to balance between emails and calls, internet calls, but definitely as soon as restriction loosened a bit in Italy, as soon as you have the opportunity to go there, even to get in touch with the municipality, it was really appreciated.
So you experience the same somehow. But I've seen that surprisingly, Zoom and call work very good. This is the good part of these 2 years. And even people that in the past were unreachable by phone, they maybe were coming to meeting on Meet or on Skype because they were used to. This is the good part. I mean, but yeah, not everybody, sure.
Yeah, only I'm talking about the first approach.
The first approach, okay.
Instead of, I mean, of course you send emails, and of course you go, you have then meetings online, but the first to engage people is go there and talk to them, and by saying, look, I'm here, I just show your, your face. That's what I've realized that here is really appreciated, especially because in municipality, most of the people are not really young, so they do appreciate a lot contact, like physical contact, and seeing you in person is better than on a webcam, even if afterwards, definitely when you set the contact, then it's really easy to organize, as you said, Zoom meetings or of course a Google Meet.
Great. So we have Alessio Sarta, President of MedWet, Coordinator of MedWet, the Mediterranean area. Hi.
Hi, everybody. No, just was jumping
Welcome.
From one room to another.
But this is actually your topic, Alessio.
Which one?
The topic is how to avoid friction with political decision makers and to make the communication flow.
This is a big topic. I mean, and I agree on the fact that we don't have tailored solutions, but we have solutions that have to be really adapted to, I mean, pre-packed solution. We need to adapt the solution to each culture, socio-cultural context that it can, be very different, even staying in the same Mediterranean region and sub-regions. So I believe that this one, it's one of the challenge actually, but because when you communicate at the very local level, the way you communicate, it's very personal. It's to individuals. So you really have to, to adapt your communication and also somehow downscale like the case of TUNAP, of course, in which you have quite general topics. You have to make it understandable at local level, and I'm sure this is not really an easy task.
Thank you. Kalia, if you want to add anything, or we just have 5 minutes, just chill out, and we're going to be redirected to the main room very soon. Okay. I think we have covered all of them somehow.
Sorry, I was muted. Maybe we can come up to.
So. Scaling up, the basis of scaling up the action is clear. Monitoring play a crucial role. Any other contribution, suggestion? And this last
Giancarlo, I don't know if I have time very quickly, but you mentioned two transboundary problems, such as, for example, marine litter and then the pressure and entering invasive alien species. So as a problem that affects different countries at the same time. So for sure, monitoring and collecting data is important. Networking is important to raise the voice about the problem, different scales. But I have the impression that the problem is seriously taken into consideration when an economic interest raise up at the same time, as you mentioned, for the socioeconomical point of view. So actually, when the problem is clearly presented, and when there is also an economic interest by the country, so things starts to move up to solve the problem or just to limit. And when there are also different economic opportunities for people working in this subject and in these sectors. For example, opportunities for limiting the spread.
The main notes or conclusions about it. Regarding the stakeholders identification, we have commented on the need of, while we are identifying the stakeholders, we need to give them something, information. We should have already been prepared with a diagnosis of the pilot area, or we should have already established some objectives so stakeholders can truly know what we are expecting from them, and if their needs are going to be in line with the ones which the project or the initiative is trying to attain. So don't go barehanded while identifying stakeholders. That would be our first idea. Also, we have discussed about the need to adapt the approach depending on the map of stakeholders you are willing to include. It depends on the project, on the objectives. Maybe the first step is a general mapping of the stakeholders, and then you proceed with interviews and questionnaires or surveys. But maybe for other type of projects and other objectives, you should start surveying everyone and then drawing the map according to the conclusions of those surveys or questionnaires. So you need to adapt the method. We have also talked about the opportunities or advantages which the COVID situation gave us and the online meetings that we are having already for the past 2 years. And we all conclude that the online meetings have gave us a lot of opportunities because we can reach now people from remote areas. We can tackle new local communities which were very difficult to gather in a inside room in a same space. But we also know that online meetings have other difficulties, like for example the access to technology of other type of communities, maybe from elder people. So also as we were adapting the identification of stakeholders, we conclude that we also need to adapt to the in each project the type of hybrid mode that we should use, the balance between online and virtual, because it depends. And lastly, we have also mentioned that working with stakeholders and for everyone to feel heard, and you need to know the relations previous to the project which are already established in stakeholders. If they know them, if they know each other, or if they have any other previous relation, because it gives you a more broader view about how the territory and the relations in the pilot area of the project are working. So these are the main conclusions from room 1, inclusivity. If I have some information left, maybe Alex can add it, but I think I speak about everything. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you told us everything, yeah, what we were talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
I think some of these last points we have also discussed in the forum about to communicate with political decision makers. Relationship is very important, especially to know if it's a good relationship or a bad relationship, because a bad relationship between stakeholders can really ruin the mood, you know, and the outcome of a project. So it's very important to know what is the relation and how to, because we talk about past conflict, past frictions, no, that people bring to the table also in a new project. And yeah, I think this is very, very critical and it's very crucial Yeah, thanks a lot for the help that we're gonna also put in bullet point and see and also share the materials of the outcome of this discussion, which can be helpful for everyone who will be implementing something, management tool, marine protected areas, but also in other contexts. I'm sure it's very important also in other contexts. So thanks a lot. Any question or any comment, you can use the chat, because I see that with the time we have time also to answer or to add something that maybe we have forgotten and so on. So I will pass now the microphone to the room 2. So Andrea Rossi and Stefano Salviati from Aqua Program, they have discussed in the room about how to share and to implement a working method, how to find this working method, how to make people engage and follow this working method, consider that everybody has a different style of managing and of working. Please.
Thank you. So in the room 2, we was raised a lot of some other issues and crucial point mainly in the stakeholder engagement and commitment, and also in other part of the development of participative governance. It arises the problem of the difficulty of obtain information mainly in in the status and in the environmental status of the area and the action required to monitoring the area after the implementation of the shared governance. From the same person arises the problem, the need of a linking person, a person who made a link among the outcome of the governance and the legal framework. This topic arises many times in different area, in different suggestions that we gave to the people that participated. And I can say that this is a shared point among different contexts, that is a mediator or a person who mediate among stakeholders, mediate with the legal authority, or mediate with national and regional authorities. Finding a common vision among the group of stakeholders was another point that arises numerous times, and a solution of this is the one, maybe a solution for this problem is to take in account the right amount of time to keep informed in the same way all the stakeholders, but paying attention to not to make this amount of time too long, because it was reported that stakeholders lose interest when the process is too long, and another suggestion was to in this phase of informing the group of stakeholders, also do some effective action to let's see the people that there are results in their collaboration, so they keep committed and engaged for this period. Again, it arises that it's extremely important to have a national or regional referent who can link among the outcome, the result of the project, the action plan of the project to the regulatory framework of the area. We discussed about conflict and contrast among stakeholders. That is a common issue in this kind of process. A suggestion was to again have a referent which is one of the stakeholders, not one external person, sorry, but to have an important stakeholder that can influence the other in a way that we want to drive them. These may cause other problem because can generate an imbalance in influence among the group of stakeholders, because one very powerful stakeholder can take the majority of the decision because is a trailer for the other, and so. Other things, Stefano? No. And obviously the funding problem is critical for everyone. So we have the experience, they report as experience of severe loss of interest and commitment when the funding stops or decrease, and this is a clear point, but it's so important that we have to remind this, I think, and they confirm us that if the funding decrease or stops, probably this kind of project won't continue or start again. I think that this is all that we get out from the discussion. So I want to thank you. And
yeah, thanks, Andrea. I think it was very interesting, no? Especially this last part, you know, when people see that there is a lack of funding, or funding, you know, are not there, they may lose interest in finding a working model.
Engagement and commitment are positively correlated with the
money.
With the money income, I think.
Yeah. Another thing that really, this person who mediate, you can say, okay, you can mediate, you need to be like the leader. Maybe you identify this leader on the way, because sometimes you believe this is a leader, but it's not, and so on.
A leader.
But on the other side, he can monopolize and can take most of the decision. So there is pro and contra.
You're talking about the one stakeholder mediator. So
yeah,
one
the
of
stakeholder mediators, this role. Yeah. Okay. And which need to be, you say, need to be within, not external, but from the territory,
from one suggestion, it was internal among the group of stakeholders. In another suggestion, it was a person, an expert who link with the legal framework. So this is external from stakeholder, I think. For me, from my opinion.
Yeah, who has this expertise, so every time it comes a question about legal framework, is able to just reassure and say, you know, yeah, we're gonna solve this that way and so on. Otherwise, people feel, okay, we're working for nothing, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. And also the other things is very interesting is not to be too long, because people don't want to lose time, you know?
Yeah.
There may be people that are used to long participatory process and strategy and whatsoever, and there are people that are more like operative and practical, and they don't want to lose time, and they want to have.
The point was the right amount of time, because too short, few time is not sufficient for inform and engage all the people. Too long lag of time can cause a loss of interest in the people. So it's the right amount of time, and in the same time doing some act that let them understand that this is a practical thing, that the result exists and will arrive.
The result exists or existed from previous projects. I think this is something from previous related project. Very interesting. I tell everyone, if something comes to your mind from your experience, you still are in time to write in the chat, because we have still some time. Please share. It's very helpful what is emerging, you know, especially for those that maybe don't have too much experience, you know. They have a kind of like an handbook already with all the problems that you can encounter. They're very common and how can be solved, or at least, yeah, face it. Thank you, Stefano and Andrea. Thanks a lot. So please, the others, use the chat if you want to just add something, a comment, or make another question. I think it's good for the outcome, for the general outcome of today. So moderator from number 3, Romina Dascagno from Uniroma 3, and Giancarlo Gusmaroli. So
yes,
big topic is scaling up, very little time. What are the findings?
Yeah, we wanted to focus on 3 issues for defining some insight for scaling up a local process to regional or national, international level. So we wanted to focus on 3 main issues. So the first one, the funding. So we're very related to the previous topic addressed also in the other room. So this is this means that the funding is a crucial point at all levels. And then the common challenges and some strategies to address this scaling up. And the last one, but we didn't have enough time to discuss about, was concerning cultural skills and competencies that we need to scale up a process. So basically, we need to do something at not only at local level, that sometimes could work, but we need also to act at global scale. So the first issue concerning the funds was that many times when we look at funding opportunities, they are related to development programs and not always related to governance process and collaborative governance process. So this is an issue, a very important issue to work on, and maybe they give much more importance to different topics to the governance. So we need to find more funding opportunities to implement place-based governance processes and experiences in order to put together all the environmental topics related to each other. And somehow we need to change also the, I don't want to say the structure of the funding, but and the programs, but they should be more and more related to collaborative and environmentally friendly processes in order to contribute to find a common strategy that could work at not beyond the hand of a specific project. Since when we talk about governance and governance project, we refer to long-term processes. Another issue that emerged from our discussing was the opportunity to fund stakeholders to take part actively in these initiatives, but not only funding different stakeholders in their activities, but to frame a common vision, a common framework to define a common goal where all the different stakeholders, for example, fishermen or farmers, can work together. So define a general and shared framework within all the stakeholders can be also funded in their activities together. And another issue emerged was the so-called blended financial approach that mixed together private investment with the public investment that is somehow an additional financial tool to implement actions also in environmental fields. And that is somehow what in Europe we have for the integrated territorial investment. Another point was the communication. So to be very local related in action and then scaling up to implement governance issue also in terms of communication with institutions. So it's another approach. So the decision to work at local level and then scaling up in the dialogue with the institutions. Another important to me, but also I think also to the other participants was, for example, the creation of a Mediterranean or a common observatory for different topics, which could have not only the task to be a research center for collecting data, for example, but also somehow a political point where all the countries can discuss and push institutions to change the policies. And then another important issue emerged concerned the monitoring activities, especially related to the marine strategy, trying to reinforce the monitoring activities for biodiversity hotspot in MPAs and in Natura 2000. So in order to make MPAs a very active participant of the monitoring activities at Mediterranean level, so not only related to pollution in other areas, but starting from the MPAs. Another issue concerning the common challenges and the strategy was to starting to be more aware concerning the human and the anthropic pressure on the Mediterranean, and to collectively understand the consequences on the environment of the human pressures. Because now we have, for example, also a lack of data about fishing practices to frame more general and specific common policies. Last one, so we finally say that the point of collecting data is very crucial because it allows to assess, to make assessment and provide evidence of the bad consequences of the so-called business as usual on the Mediterranean level. So we need to provide evidence of social and economic consequences in order to frame more effective and shared policies at Mediterranean at European level in the field of environment and protection of biodiversity. And the last one, to integrate in the marine spatial planning all the MPAs activities and regulations, monitorings activities at national level. So to reinforce the marine spatial planning at national level in order to take into consideration, take into consideration the MPAs and protected areas issues. That's it from my side.
Thank you. Wow, so much emerged in 45 minutes. Really very good point. Santiago, you had a hand on. You wanted to add something?
I just wanted to give about one of the issues Romina raised up about the need to to talk about the financial resources for this type of projects and spatial marine planning. The case, for example, for tune-up here in Spain, in Cabo de Gata, in Andalusia, while we were doing the capacity building seminars, the main interest and the main thing that helped us to correctly transfer the tool and to explain how the environmental contracts are useful for MPAs management, it was the work that we are doing on financing the action plan that emerged from TuneUp, because the other MPAs saw that the participatory process and the governance model really helped them to get access to these financial opportunities, because most of the time the feedback we get from other MPAs is that they already have the diagnosis, they have the identification of stakeholders, they have even the projects defined, but they don't know how to implement them or where to get the financial resources from. So I think it is very important, while transferring this type of knowledge regarding to tools and environmental contract, to explain how to get these financial resources, because it is another opportunity to correctly transfer all this knowledge. It was just a quick annotation. Thank you.
Yeah, it's quite important in general when this kind of process are active, because many funds are for a group established of stakeholders, so they have more opportunity to get funds for implementing the action plan of the contract, but also in general to have more opportunity to share knowledge and to implement their practices.
Yes, for example, one of the projects that emerged from the action plan for TuneUp here in Andalusia was a mobility plan, which it is now becoming like a reality, because thanks to all the next generation funds from the EU, we are financing the action plan. So that was one of the main things that made everyone realize that this type of governance model are really useful for the development of a pilot area like a marine protected area. Thank you.
Good. I had a small question, Romina. When we talk about competencies, it's an issue that there are not enough people that they know the problems, they know the framework and so, or it's a job issue. So there are not professional that
we we didn't have time to discuss about the competencies, but when we talk about competencies, we can refer, we talked about yesterday about this issue. On the one hand, on the one side, we can refer to skills and competencies of for building this kind of process. But on the other hand, when we're talking about competencies in scaling up, we need also to frame the competencies at administrative level, for example, because also within TUNEup, we experience that all the different countries has different legal framework, and sometimes also in the same nation we have at regional level differences with rules, laws in managing protected areas. So the issue of competencies could be intended as skills and technical scientific competencies to implement processes, but also administrative and legal competencies in framing laws, plans, and policies. And this is a crucial point in scaling up policies, because in one project in TUNEup, in 10 pilots, we face different legal framework. For example, in our methodology, Flavio can remember, we wrote just a few lines of the completely different legal frameworks of our 7 nations. So imagine this also considering the North Africa and the Middle East. So we really need to create somehow a system where we can talk about policy and rules with a common language, with a common ground. And also this is an issue for scaling up.
Training for all, I guess, no? To the people that are already in their place.
This is an issue of institution also. So we need to, another issue that emerged from our table is to create a critical mass of people expert in these issues of environment, but also able to dialogue with experts in economy, development, and other policy area. In order to strengthen the power to change or to create these networks of institution and stakeholder able to dialogue together.
Okay, I think it's very clear. Thank you. Flavio.
Giulia, if I can just add one thing for people which are working outside TUNEup project, just to say that the environmental contract implementation for some countries is the really first time that they are faced with this kind of problem. So it's particularly completely new for them. So it's normal that in some cases there is no legal framework prepared for implementing it. So in this sense, TUNEup project represents a sort of first experience that could create, as Romina mentioned, a sort of critical mass or awareness about this kind of possible solution also for the future. And in this sense, some countries are experiencing this for the first time associated to marine protected areas. So I hope, and I think all of us hope, that in the future some steps forward will be done in this sense. Because we are at the very beginning. So it's normal that the process at this phase would require much more time for being received, digested, and then applied, I think, at different levels.
Yeah, a very last thing that Giancarlo was saying in the room was that at European level, we are asked to be always integrated, but also consider the European policies. The agricultural policy are not always very well integrated to environmental policy. Now maybe yes, but imagine years ago, and also with development policies or a very strong maritime, for example, transport policies. So also at European level, they should be really integrated in some policy area.
Yeah, from top down. Otherwise,
we need always to consider that bottom-up initiative are our future. Yeah, we need to consider bottom-up initiative, but also the top-down levels of
to give a good example,
need to be also a bit changed, you know, aligned, considering the different world where we live now. No.
Yes, clear. Thank you, Romina. Thanks a lot for the good job, and Giancarlo, a lot of inputs. So let's write them down. Next day. So Kalia. Last topic is very interesting. How to communicate with political decision makers, those that they can make the difference, they can put a plan in action, those that, of course, sometimes they have their own interest, and those that sometimes we may experience a lack of communication, misunderstanding, no answer. So how to deal with this nice experience, Kalia?
Yes. I have written down some conclusions from this topic, such as the importance of giving small responsibilities to different stakeholders, is communicating is not only a matter of theory, but also we can gain some concrete examples from the field work. How important is as a solution for improving communication is to create a common ground for a better knowledge transfer, as well as to try to use a common language between most of the key stakeholders, for example, between scientists and the public authorities. Also, it is important for gaining trust and credibility to engage the most important stakeholders at the beginning of a project. Another point is that, of course, communication requires investment in time and energy, and it requires increased effort in order to be effective. When it comes to media chosen for communicating, it seems that the personal contacts are always a good solution, and we have to assure a regular and instant communication flow. Also, to adapt communication and solutions according to different cultures, to different spatial scales, etc. And finally, an idea to maybe adapt traditional approaches of communication with political decision makers with new educational ideas by providing something like a condensed experience of what management and conservation of biodiversity concerns. I don't know if...
Okay. Yes, you were very quick.
If you have something to add, because...
No. I was in your room for 10-15 minutes. It's a very interesting topic. I think it's very, as Alessia also said, is very local sometimes, you know, because, but for sure we can, it's very important to involve them at the beginning, because sometimes it may happen that you forget somebody and then you call somebody at the end or in the middle, and of course you get, yeah, he gets very angry because he feels that it was not valued enough. No, we talked a lot about valuing people and valuing also the political decision maker, and also we talk about giving some role. At least they feel they have something to do. Actually, it's important that everybody does his own part. You know, Romina said before also maybe to find some fundings to pay some of the key people, because it's sometimes, you know, it can get also work for them to do so. I think it's a very interesting, very important to say also something like this. And also the relationship, you know, we spoke about relationship between them, to get to know in the mapping who is the relationship between those people that may be on the same table and have a different point of view, not because of the question, but because of the previous experience, previous stories, no? Yes, we talked about that. Do you have any question or any comment you want to ask? Just raise your hand on, or write in the chat. I think I have a question for you. If you don't have any question for us, have you never experienced anything like that? Where do you feel you have the most experience on? I imagine you enter in a room and some of you, they maybe didn't have any idea or never didn't have any experience. Where do you feel you have most of the experience on this common challenge? Because they're really, this is what we experience from 10 project partners, but also across other external partners. And it seems that at least I took part to some of the rooms, and people had experience even sometimes a bit or a lot, or just answer. Where do you feel more? Okay, lunchtime in some country comes earlier than in Italy. So thanks a lot, Kalia Spala, for the outcome. If you don't have any question, if you don't have nothing to say now, you can even Anna. You talk a lot later. Okay, you can say still something. So I will hand over for the conclusion to Flavio. Really thanks a lot for joining, for participating, for giving your experience, and to stay to the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia, and very well. I believe that at this point we can just close the event. I must say that it was a stimulating moment for me at least, but I think for everybody, a useful discussion. For this, I would like to thank all the representatives of the international organization who participated in the first part of the morning for the capitalization seminars. And obviously, special thanks also to the collaborators and TUNAP colleagues for having moderated the rooms, and that acted as a sort of trade union for the occasion among all the partners and attendees. I believe that the main challenges well emerged during the seminar, as well as the issues existing at different levels for the implementation of the contract instruments in the policies relating to the protection of natural space in general, but in particular to coastal areas and marine protected areas. At the same time, I believe that we can underline the enormous potential behind this tool of the contract and the environmental contract, and the interest showed by all stakeholders in different countries and at all levels, which is, in my opinion, quite promising for the future. As I mentioned before, in some cases, this is the first ever experience for some countries dealing with the environmental contract implementation. So I'm expecting that in the next future there will be much more awareness and competencies to be put on the ground in order to develop and to really scaling up for the implementation of this kind of tool for better governing and managing MPAs. thanks you all again and for participating. It was a great pleasure. And I don't know, I would say goodbye. And for TUNAP project partners, we will see.
Maybe we can make a picture
for the final conference. Yeah, why not? That's just good idea, Julia.
So come on, everybody. Here we go. Hi, how nice. Georgia? Okay, actually I forgot, in Greece it's 2 o'clock almost, so definitely was lunchtime. So I totally forgot about the different time zone. So smile, and many thanks for coming. And you're gonna get also all this information from the official website, right, Flavio?
Yes, I think so. We discussed before with Galia.
Yeah.
Yes, you can find all the information uploaded in the next few days or weeks on the official website. Is it right, Galia?
We will upload the material at our website or social media channels.
We'll see. We define, but for sure we can give some output from this.
Thank you to you, Julia, for organizing the event.
A pleasure.
For the efforts, and to Georgia
sure, thanks a lot,
as well,
Julia.
of
Great
course.
work.
And Paulina.
Thank you, Julia.
Thanks to you. Bye. Have a good lunch.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.